BizQuik podcast hits on the struggles and advantages of being an entrepreneur. It's for anyone who's made the commitment to burn the boats and not look back. Are you a busy entrepreneur or small business owner trying to do it all? Then this podcast is for you. Corey and Julie will take you through the details of building a strong business. Hit the subscribe button and gear up for another episode of BizQuik Podcast.
All right, everybody, let's get excited for Zach Babcock. We have him on today. He is out of... Where is he out
Bridgeton, Missouri.
Bridgeton, Missouri. And as always, we've got Julie and myself on today. Zach is the founder and chief visionary officer at Podcast Powertrain, and he's a top 15 Apple podcast host. He's got Underdog Empowerment. And we're excited to talk to him today. A couple of the key takeaways that you're going to get from this podcast, which is a two-parter. Our first two-parter ever, which I'm excited about, is that one thing that we definitely cover that I think everybody who has a podcast or is thinking about it is monetization. That's going to be a key takeaway, and the importance of consistency.
Yes. I loved the takeaways where he talked about what network marketing did for him and how it was basically a college for entrepreneurs where he learned about personal development and rejection. And so, shout out to network marketers and those programs. And how we talked about one of the things that podcasters typically get wrong is their marketing message and why that's so important. So some really great takeaways in today's two-part episode. But before we bring Zach on, we're going to talk for a little bit about what podcasting has meant to us and why we're glad we never went to prison.
I don't know if anybody has to explain that. I mean, there are some of those people who say, the career criminals will say, prison changed my life and I wouldn't be who I am today, or I'd probably be dead or whatever. But I feel like for most people who are straight shooters, you don't have to explain why not going to prison is a good thing.
Right. Listen, my lifelong goal is to never end up in jail or prison. I'm sure you know this about me, Corey. I'm not built for prison. I wouldn't survive. I wouldn't. A lot of people think that I might take over and run the joint, but that's probably not the case.
I don't know who thinks that.
So Zach is huge with podcasting, and that's literally his business, is helping people build these top-rated podcasts. So let's talk a little bit about that, because we've recently hired him to help us get our podcast ranked.
And we can save this for another episode. I can tell you the story of the most fun I ever had in jail.
Oh, yeah. That's a great story. I've heard it, and I believe our audience would absolutely love it. So, yeah, we'll definitely have to do that. Maybe we can do that after the outro today as a special treat. Yeah, good idea. Okay.
I don't even know. What are we talking about now?
We're talking about our podcast and the fact that we hired Zach to help us get it ranked and to just make incremental improvements so that obviously we want to attract more listeners, but also we want to make it as the best possible podcast for the listeners that we have.
That's a very important lesson I think that everybody needs to take away from this particular podcast, and just us leading by example, because despite the juggernaut that is the BizQuik podcast, we can always use help making things a little bit better. There's no such thing as a perfect business, and if you are perfect, the minute you look away, you're no longer perfect. It's it's like a unicorn or whatever. There's always something that you can do a little bit better, or you can tweak or improve, because otherwise you just get stagnant.
Yeah. And I think that's really aligns what you just said, aligns so well with Zach's philosophy on how he runs his business, because he is he likes to lead by example, but he's also not ever afraid to admit the things that he doesn't know or the hard lessons that he's learned. Or just this past week when we were on Mastermind with him and we were going over some great information that he was giving everybody, we had a couple of things to add for things that we had tried. And we're like, I don't even know if this is a good idea, but we did this thing. And he was like, oh, hey, that's kind of brilliant, guys. And we're like, oh, wow. Okay. Right. So it's, he's not afraid to say, I need to keep reinventing myself, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to fail along the way. And I think that makes somebody a much more useful coach and mentor than somebody who just pretends that they just have their shit all together all the time.
And the other thing is that he makes his mistakes and his time in prison and all of that a part of who he is. Mm-hmm. And it's not who he is. It doesn't define who he is, but he very similar to a blog that we released last month where we talk about owning it. Like if there's something you can change it, maybe you just ignore it, or you can own it. And he owned it. And it was one of those things where for him, it helped him because he used that as an opportunity, like a driving force. Say, all right, I'm going to stop screwing around. I'm going to get my act together and all of that. Where some people might take the victim mentality approach, be like, oh, well, I'll never amount to anything. I'll never be able to get a job or whatever. He said, I'll make my own job. I can just do this myself.
Yeah. And you want to hear a funny story before we bring him on? I don't know if it's haha funny or embarrassing funny for me, but I'll share it with you, Corey, since it's just you and me. So I know Zach
and Alex. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, Alex, our listener. So I know Zach from Arete, and of all the people in Arete, and there are there's probably close to 2,000. Zach was the only one that I was super intimidated by, and it's weird because there's a lot of really really successful people in Arete, and Zach is very successful. But he was the one that I was intimidated by because he had made this post in Arete back last fall that he had grown this coaching business and it was so successful and he didn't want to do it anymore and he was leaving it. He was quitting it to focus solely on podcasting. And I so desperately wanted to know, this is when we were still really young and I was really we were struggling and I was trying to figure out well, how the hell did you do that? And I just wanted to pick his brain, and I sent him a message and asked him if we could have a call, right? Thinking, I'm Arte, he's Arte, and he was like, yeah, I'll give you 15 minutes. And he wasn't being a dick about it. He was just like, I'm super busy. I'll give you 15 minutes. And we never got the call scheduled, but I just thought, how imagine the level of success that you have when you just can walk away from this huge, huge coaching business because you're just like, I don't want to do it anymore. And I realize now it was yes, it was very successful, but it was so much less about success and so much more about happiness and fulfillment, where he was like, I'm getting I don't want to do this. I don't enjoy it. And so it's just kudos to him for making that switch. And by the way, I'm not intimidated by him at all anymore. I respect him. I think he's a great guy. And I really enjoy when we get to communicate with him. But I also see he's super down to earth and he's a really good guy. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's a good lesson there as well for people because he even says it in his bio, I think, on his website, where he's talking about he was doing work, but he didn't love it before the coaching, and it crumbled because he didn't have passion. And I think that's for most people in small businesses, if you lose that passion, you're probably going to lose your business.
Yes, you're probably going to lose your business. So that's a good point. All right, should we take a quick break and then bring them in?
Yep, let's do it.
All right.
Hey, everyone. If you're like most entrepreneurs out there, time is not something you ever seem to have enough of. We get it. There are a million things that need your attention, both in business and in your personal life. That's why we created Time Bomb. This is a self-paced course designed to help you determine what your time is worth and where you should be spending those precious hours every day. Right now, we have an option to buy the bundle, which also includes products designed to help you become more efficient with your time. It's a $70 deal you're getting for only an additional $30. Head on over to sbpace.com to learn more. Time Bomb. Take control of your calendar, gain control of your life. All right, and welcome back to the show. We've got Zach on. How you doing, Zach?
Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are excited to have you on as well. And before you joined the conversation, we were talking about owning it and kind of that entrepreneurial spirit where you just take your life, your matters into your own hands. And we know your backstory somewhat in terms of the after prison, you needed to kind of get your life in order and you were having issues with employment and all of that. What was that moment where you had that realization of, fuck it, I have to do this myself?
I kind of knew that before I got back out. While I was locked up, I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to get a good paying job in most fields or whatnot. I'm going to have to, my best possibility probably is going to be going into business for myself. And so I started just thinking about ways of how I can make that happen. But yeah, that was pretty much it. And then when I got out, I couldn't find a job anywhere. I was trying to find a under the table paying job to support this business idea that I had, and that never came to fruition. And so I ended up getting my start in like network marketing and did that for about 2 years.
Yeah, I forgot about the network marketing part. That's so funny, and that's the first place that you went. And network marketing tends to get shit on, but it really provides a very good living for a lot of people. So did you enjoy doing the network marketing, and what sort of things did you take from that and use to move on to the next thing that you were doing?
Yeah, I definitely did enjoy it in the beginning. It was super fun and it was cool. It did a lot of things for me. It was like a college for entrepreneurship for me. Taught me, introduced me to personal development, helped me even get better at getting rejections. I mean, I was pretty good at that before because I did a lot of door-to-door sales or whatnot. But it helped me get better with dealing with rejection. And then most importantly, though, I was able to build almost a $2,000 a month residual income. And so it showed me that even though, I had these things in my past that are holding me getting from all these other jobs, it doesn't stop me from moving forward and creating the life of design. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's important.
And building that sales experience and that rejection experience is a big part of owning a business. You have to, especially for this type of line of work, when it comes to coaching, consulting, trying to sell stuff to people that they may not know that they actually want or need. Because I come from more of a product background where I've got a thing that people already want. So for me, it's just staying relevant. It's not going door to door and knocking on somebody, hey, do you want to buy this food?
Yeah.
I think that, one of the hardest hurdles we had to get over when we started SB Pace was Corey understanding the concept that there was actually value assigned to a service, right? He just couldn't understand why anybody would ever pay for coaching or for the consulting work that we were doing. And I'm like, seriously? And he's like, I mean, I get it. Like if it was a restaurant, but like when it's a cert, I don't get it. I don't understand why anybody would pay for this. Why can't people just do it themselves? And I'm like, oh my God, this is our business, right? And so inside our own company, we had to do like some education on it. And it was just, it's crazy. But I think that the way that you have really grown your brand has been so impressive, right? Because you are unapologetically authentic about who you are, where you've been, what you've done, and what you bring to the table. And it draws people to you like a magnet. Like you are just like, there's very few people that I've seen who can just get people to just draw to them just because it's simply you are who you are and you're never going to apologize for it. Like, this is me. Take it or leave it. Don't care.
Right on. I really appreciate that. It really does mean a lot to me, for real. It's crazy. I used to not be that way. I used to be a big people pleaser for a large chunk of my life. And that didn't really change until like I went to prison, honestly. So I was always trying to fit in with everybody else and be accepted or whatnot. So yeah, that was something that I had to overcome myself.
It's crazy because it appears to be so natural for you.
Yeah. You know what? I gotta give some love to Mitch Miller. He was one of my first mentors, and being in his mastermind really helped me break through in a way. Because before that, I would always hold back punches. Like I wouldn't say how I truly felt sometimes if I thought that it was gonna make the other person uncomfortable or whatnot. And so I wasn't speaking my truths. And then when I stopped, like doing that and just started speaking about how I truly feel about certain, things and just being myself, that's when the brand really started taking off because people, like you mentioned, were attracted to it because, you're just speaking truth at that point.
Yeah. Let's just take a little pause and step back to talk about sort of your backstory, right? So for any of our listeners who aren't familiar with your story and what it is that you're doing now, and I know we talked a little bit on the front end about both of those things, but would you mind sharing some of your story with our listeners?
Yeah, no doubt. I'll share the really short version, and then we can unpack whatever if you want to unpack more. But I grew up in Ferguson, Missouri. My dad died when I was 7. I tried to fit in and be accepted so much growing up. I didn't have any chief aim in life, and I probably wanted to fit in more than your average kid. I would do stuff that just was out of my character to be accepted. Was in and out of group homes, institutions, juveniles, detention centers, you name it, because I never went to school, and I was smoking weed, and so I was getting in trouble for being truant and smoking weed, and I ended up going to prison by the time I was 19. I did 4 years on a 7-year sentence, got out for 2 years, and then I went back just 20 days before my twin sons were born, and that was it for me. That was so painful because I wanted to be a father my whole life because I didn't have one. And so that's when I decided to move in the direction that I'm in now. And long story short, got out of prison, got laughed at for 3.5 years for trying to become an entrepreneur, launched the Underdog Empowerment podcast, started getting some traction. Then about a year after that is when I broke through financially, when we launched the podcast Powertrain Company. And now here we are on this podcast.
And the podcasting is something that it can be very lucrative and very good for business, and it could be its own entity and all of that when it comes to finance. But it's also one of those things that like everybody can have one. The requirement to create a podcast is almost nothing. You could use your computer. So I'm sure that and there's like a ton of tools that you need to get. But like, do you just cringe sometimes when you're like kind of like scanning through podcasts and all of that, just like some of the garbage that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, there is, junk out there. My content was garbage at one point. I mean, and I'm not lying, dude. I'm pretty good at content now because I've done a lot of content for over half a decade now. And so like you could go to my YouTube channel. It's my name, Zach Babcock, and they got that filter where you can show the oldest videos. And if you go look at my older videos from 2016 and 2015, they're cringe. I can't even watch them because they're that bad. But I only keep them just for purposes like this, so I can show that I got proof that I used to be really bad. But yeah, man, there's definitely some times where I'll be thumbing through and I'll see something. I'm like, that's not a good thumbnail at all. Or, stuff like that.
But it's important to be true and to keep that out there because we just re-recorded our intro
because of you, Zach.
Because of you, but we just dropped an extra 2 or 3 minutes on the front to say we've learned a lot, but we're just giving this kind of like a disclaimer, like this is what it is. So our first I don't know, a couple months of podcast, like you but it's fun. You can see the progression. You get better. You learn. It gets it just sounds better. It's more natural. All of that.
And for the record, Zach, Corey was just like you. I was the one who had to go back and listen to our intro episode because he wouldn't listen to it. He's like, nope, I can't do it. And I was like, we sound so scripted.
No, man, it's painful listening to yourself whenever you're cringy. It's like, I can't do it. So I know that feeling, man.
Yeah, there are some episodes, right? So, that after Corey has edited it and put everything together and I'm listening to them, I'm like, oh God, do we have to release this one? This is not good. But, it's like, well, we've talked to the guest. The guest has given us their time. And so, yeah, I think, that's we could always say, hey, do you want to re-record? But typically if it's on our end where it just sounds, I'm like, we're just going to release it. But more often than not lately, I'll be like, oh God, this one is actually boring. Do we really have to release it? It's tough.
Yeah, and that's such a hard situation because you're like, damn, this person just came and, blocked out time to come on the show. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, but I still got my audience here that's dependent on me to put out good content for them. So I'm going to have to throw this one in the can and we're going to have to redo it. I get it. It's a hard spot to be in.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny though, when you're talking to some of these guests, because I can kind of see where they're just phoning it in, literally and, figuratively, where
yeah.
They just expect that they're going to be on this podcast and they're going to just see this influx of clients traffic to their website, whatever, because they're on our, it's like, no, you have to show up to the podcast, you have to deliver on the podcast, and you have to promote on the back end. And that's not something that a lot of people realize. They think that, oh, I'm just on a podcast.
Yeah.
Watch the money roll in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always tell the people that have podcasts and understand what goes into it versus people that don't and are just a guest and trying to, just get more business off of being on your podcast, right? And it's,
where they join the Zoom meeting from their phone and stuff.
we've had a couple of people do that.
Yeah, I have too. I was like, what's going on, man?
I think AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys did that to us, didn't he? Yeah.
That's crazy that out of all people, he did that, because Kevin Martin, the lead singer of Candlebox, did the same thing. He called in on the phone. I'm like, bro, you got more than enough money to call in from a computer. Maybe he was busy or something. I don't know, but it's funny though.
It is funny. What's the from a passion perspective, or maybe a better way to say it, like a opportunity perspective, what is it about podcasts that drew you to it, right? Because you had a very successful coaching business, and I talked about this a little bit before you joined, that you if I remember the timing correctly, it was probably like late last summer, early last fall, where you were like, I'm leaving my coaching business. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to be focusing solely on podcasting, right? So you had this really lucrative thing that you just weren't feeling the passion for it, but you really, for podcasting, had it. So what is it about podcasting that draws you in so much and helps you to just like want to like give to other people and show them how to get better at it?
I think you heard that whenever I was talking about that just slightly wrong a little bit, because before the podcast, I was doing the coaching, but I ended up, this is crazy. I ended up making a post about this on Christmas Day and called myself out on it. So I got laughed at for the first 3.5 years coming out of prison to become an entrepreneur, because people didn't think I was going to actually be successful to do it. And right before I started podcasting, I started this business coaching with this guy because he ran across my podcast. Or no, wait, I'm sorry. I started podcasting in 2018, and I got it ranked on day 3, had Billie Jean as marketing on the following week. So I immediately went from everybody laughing at me in 1 week's worth of time to interviewing people like Billie Jean or whatnot. And so the brand is starting to blow up, right? And things are going good, except for I wasn't making a lot of money. I was making anywhere from like $200 to $800 a month through affiliate marketing. Nothing to write home about, not even enough to cover the bills. And then this guy reached out to me because he found my podcast, and he's like, dude, let's go in. I got this program where I had 20 million in revenue, or 20 million revenues, 1,000 successful students, and it's a program about lead generation, customer acquisition, and scaling a business. And I was like, you're gonna do it with me? He's like, yeah. I was like, cool, let's do it. So I was like, I got somebody that's done this, is gonna roll with me. And then we started doing it. We were bringing in clients and stuff, a few clients, but I just felt like a scumbag, a sleazeball. I felt slimy, dude. I'm sitting here trying to achieve what I'm teaching by teaching it, and it was just backwards and didn't align with my values. So I pulled the plug on that, and then I made a post, called myself out about it on Facebook on Christmas of 2018. Said, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to go back to the drawing board, and when I come back to the marketplace, I'm going to have something that's legit. And so 3 months later, a couple months later, because this was in December of Christmas. And then next month in January, I went out to Marshall Gillen's event as mastermind, spoke at it, gave my story, came up to me afterwards, like, man, can you come up again tomorrow, but this time talk about podcasting? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then so I did that, and it was a smaller mastermind. It was like 20 people, give or take. And I started talking about what I knew about podcasting, about getting it ranked, about interviewing high-level people, about affiliate marketing, all this stuff, right? And everybody's eyes are lighting up. They're asking questions and stuff. And I'm like, man, I might have something here. And so I put out an offer the following month, and made 11K. And at that point in time in my life, that's, what was it? 9K more than I've ever made. Like, I don't think I've ever made $2,000 total in 1 month of my life before this. So it was like, holy shit, this is real or whatever.
The moment, right?
Yeah, it was like, man, I broke through. I can't believe it. It was awesome. And we just took off from there. But sorry, I had to give some context to the story, but to fully answer your question, what made me fall in love with it, really was how it just changed my life. Because to be honest with you, before podcasting, I didn't even like podcasting. I had YouTube out and I put out 3 videos a week for almost 2 years straight, starting in 2016 before I started my podcast. And I didn't like podcasts because it was just audio. And to me, I was like, man, I like video or whatnot. But then I ended up I was throwing shit on the wall, trying to see what sticks. And so I finally started the podcast and broke through. And it was like the thing that put my brain on the map pretty much. So that's the reason why I love it so much, because it literally changed my life.
I know the answer to this, but for Julie, maybe. Just joking. When it comes to monetizing a podcast, because I'm sure there's a ton of ways. How long did it take you to figure out different ways to make money, and how many different ways are you monetizing your content?
Yeah, man. So affiliate marketing, was able to figure that out pretty quickly because I was already doing affiliate marketing before podcasting, and so I just carried that over. In my personal opinion, affiliate marketing is something that every single podcaster should be doing, whether you're just starting out in business and haven't even proven your offer yet, or whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur and you got multiple companies and they're scaled up to 7 and past and whatever. Affiliate marketing is good for wherever you're at. And the reason why is because you're leaving too much money on the table if you're not doing affiliate marketing. I mean, dude, you could go to John Lee Dumas's website, eofire.com, and right in the top right corner of his website, he has a little income report. So you click on it and it shows you exactly how much money he's made from affiliate marketing since 2012 and how much he's done this year. And it's crazy. Like this year, he's already done over 20K just in affiliate marketing alone. And so, but also he's been doing it for a while too. So you're not going to start off making 20K. You're probably going to start off not even making $100 a month when you first start, but then it builds up over time if you stay consistent. So yeah, anyways, affiliate marketing is definitely a thing that I recommend for everybody. It's one of the ways that I monetize. I also monetize. My favorite way is monetizing indirectly. And what I mean by that is I like to just really kick ass with the podcast, interview a lot of cool people, grow the downloads, get it ranked on Apple, climb the charts, do all these cool things, and then just show what I'm doing with my podcast on other platforms, Facebook specifically. And then people see that and they're like, boom. And then I put out an offer, and then it tends to work because they've seen that not only do I just show people how to do this, I actually do it myself. And so that comes in handy. But yeah, man, there's a lot of ways. I mean, this could end up being a long conversation just talking about monetizing a podcast in and of itself.
It's an interesting concept because, I mean, Corey was right. Julie didn't know. I knew mastermind and I knew affiliate marketing, but I really, I know you have the mastermind, which is a great way to monetize off of it. And I think you definitely, when I think about podcasting, like if I want to know more about podcasting, you're the first person that comes to my mind. Like, how would Zach do this? Or, what is Zach doing in this area? Right. And it's so interesting to watch and to learn from other people who are, already like ahead of you. I saw this post recently by Lauren Johnson, who was recently on our podcast. She used to be the mental performance coach for the New York Yankees. And it's called the plus minus equal approach, where you want to have people in your network that are ahead of you so that you can watch what they're doing and see what they're doing. You want to have people in your network who are below you so that you can show them and teach them and help them get better. And you want to have people in your network that are equal to you so that you can compete against them, right? Because the healthy competition is really, really good for growing and developing your skills. And I just think, when it comes to podcasting, you're the plus in our network, right? You're the person where we're like, what's Zach doing, and how can we emulate that or learn from that? And I will say this: I was talking to Lisa Hawker last night, and and we had our mastermind yesterday, right, with you. And Lisa went and told me all the things that she had done. And I was like, God, how, you already implemented almost everything he told us to do today. And she's like, I know, I was having a really bad day, and all these things made me feel like I was getting wins. And I was like, good for you. I'm like, all I did was made a list of them and sent it to Corey and said, hey, we got to do these things. So we've got some work to do. But it's been such a interesting, like a really good learning experience, because it's this thing that, at the beginning of the year, we set these really big goals for what we wanted to do with our podcast. And we were kind of sitting here thinking, how the fuck are we going to do this? Like, how do we, and now we're at the middle of the year. And then finally, I just happened to stumble across, well, you had all your courses on sale, which I bought the courses, and then you had the mastermind, and I was like, oh, I think we have to do this. I think we, and Corey took a look at it, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
That's awesome. That's crazy how things pan out and shake out.
And for us, I would love it if we were making money hand over fist with this podcast. But the reality of the situation is that this isn't our primary business.
Right.
For us, and it's like our book, which I just call a very expensive business card, because it helps prove us out as people. Like, it makes us real. People can connect with us. They can read and whatever, and they can see that these people are more than just this website and whatever else that they can see online. It's they get to know us a little bit more. It's like a proof of concept almost.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's a great way, dude. Like, I look at it like this, man. The podcast is the top of the funnel. Like you said, it like the book. It's like you said, it's like a very expensive business card. I love that analogy right there. Same thing with podcast. It's like the top of the funnel. It's like the thing where it's a great. See, people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. I know that's so cliche, and like everybody in marketing knows that, because it's been been beating a dead horse on that for forever. Everybody says that, but it's true though. People really do buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And so what better platform for people to really get to know, like, and trust you than to come listen to your podcast, where it's long form content, and you get into, sometimes you get into some really deep conversations, and you're always spewing your thoughts, views, perspectives, and opinions. People get to know, like, and trust you that way, or know, dislike, and don't trust you, whatever. The opposite.
Yeah.
One or the other. Yeah. And so for me, like, I use that, I use it like that. And then I got plenty of episodes, like almost every episode I plugged some way for you to further get involved, whether it's a free Facebook group, our free newsletter, our free podcast roadmap download that shows you how to whatever it is, something for you to take that next step and get a little bit more involved. And then those things lead to the next, so it's I always look at it like the top of the funnel.
That's great. What's the biggest mistake or most common mistake that you see people make with podcasts? Fingers crossed we're not doing it.
Yeah. Probably. Can I give two answers to this?
Yeah.
All right. The greatest mistake that I see a lot of people make is that they don't really dial in a marketing message for the podcast. And I call it the 4 W's. It's a little framework I made up, but it's the same thing as like doing your marketing message for any product or service or anything that you create. You figure out who the thing is for, what it's going to do, how it's going to help them, why they should get it, what's the differentiator, all that stuff. You got to do the same thing with your podcast, because if you don't, then you're just speaking to anyone. And if you're speaking to anyone, it's not going to reach anybody. It's got to be, specific. So definitely that. And then another one is I see, and I know this from experiences, because I did it for the first year, is that I thought the best way of growing my podcast was to just ask the guests to share it myself on social media. Now you should definitely, you know, do both of those things. But if you only do those two things, you're going to have ebbs and flow growth. Like when you look at your charts of your downloads, it's going to be up and down, ebbs and flows. The best way that I found, like organically, to really do that is just to go on other shows and plug your podcast on those other podcasts. But yeah, those are the two I would say right there.
I'm laughing so hard because, well, we'll tell you the story. We're going to take a quick break and wrap up part 1. But make sure you tune in for part 2, where we've got, you know, even more great stuff coming up.
Yes, and don't forget to find us on our website, sbpace.com. We've got all of the information you would ever need to find out anything about us. For the most part, is going to be on our website, so sbpace.com. And that's it for part 1. We'll see you at part 2.